welcome to Story Time with Kim. That's me. My name is Kim, and I'm gonna tell you a story today. Back a while, back a long while actually, at least 10 years ago, but probably more. I was at my aunt's house, and my grandma had recently passed away, and it had been like a year or maybe a few years, so it wasn't like super recent at this point, but all of my grandma's stuff was in the garage at my aunt's house, like a ton of stuff, just boxes on boxes on boxes of my grandma's old stuff from from her life. And that summer, we had decided to clear out the garage and go through all of the stuff and see what we could get rid of, what do we keep, all of that. And so we had brought it all out of the garage, and we were going through everything, and in the middle of all of this stuff, I, being a junior higher or maybe even younger, I don't even know, I find my grandma's wheelchair. You guys have video games and, Fortnite and TikTok and stuff like that. Back then, we had the outdoors, and so you had to be creative with things for fun. Be creative to come up with things to do that were fun. And so, finding a wheelchair when you are like 10, 11, or 12 years old, back then, that was like gold. This was not just a wheelchair. This was a race car that you were gonna win the NASCAR race in. This was a rocket ship that you would take to the moon. This was, you just use your imagination and it's whatever you want it to be. I find this wheelchair, and my little cousin, he was probably like four or five at the time. I was watching him for the time being while all the adults were going through all this stuff. And so, I find this wheelchair, and so I'm like, hey, Austin, like, you want to go for a ride? And he's like, yeah, let's go. And so I was like, awesome. So I put him in the wheelchair, I'm rolling him around, and my aunt, so she lives on a ranch, so she has a large bit of property. And it's up in the mountains, so it's not like just a flat piece of land. There's a lot of hills and a lot of like windy turns, and all of her the roads that are on her property are covered in gravel. I'm pushing him around on the property, and so we're going, and I remember we get to, because again, the property was kind of like on a slope, so like this end of the property was higher than the other end of the property, so it was like hills rolling down on the property. And so we got to the top, and I saw one of the hills is pretty steep, and so I was like, you want to go on this one? And mind you, I grew up with all boys, okay? So if you are like an only child or grew up with all girls, then you're probably like, why would you go down that hill? Like, that's dangerous. Yeah, danger means fun, okay? So we did it. We're on this hill, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you want to go down? He's like, yeah. And I was like, awesome. And so we go down, and it's awesome, and we get about halfway, we're flying, winds blowing through our hair, and we get about halfway, and all of a sudden everything comes to a screeching halt because the wheelchair got caught on a piece of the gravel. And all I see is my cousin, who's like 4 or 5 years old at this moment, go flying forward the rest of the way down the hill. And he lands and he slides on the gravel, and I'm standing there like, I just killed my cousin. I look around to see if any of the adults are around. None of them are around because they're at the back of the house still, with all the stuff. And so I run over to my cousin, and he's not like, he was kind of like getting up. So like, I knew he was like okay, but I knew like something was gonna be either broken or bloody. I go around, I'm like, hey, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. And so I push the wheelchair down, and I pick him up, and he's kind of like on one knee. And, I kind of like dust him off, and his elbows are a little bit scraped up. Honestly, not too bad. His hands are a little scraped up, but not too bad. And so I look at his knee, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's good. And so I lift him up all the way onto the wheelchair to see blood streaming down his other leg. And I go, oh, and he goes, what? And I say, nothing, it's all fine, you're good. And I said, hey, let's go to the bathroom and let's like wipe off your knee. And so we go into the bathroom, we clean him up a little bit, put a couple band-aids on, and then I take him down to the adults, to his mom and everything. And I was like, Austin got hurt. And they were like, oh no, what happened? And I was like, and so I have to explain to them all the story. And anyway, they were fine with it. And like, it wasn't like it was a big deal. Like, it was an accident and it happened. And I thought I was going to be in so much trouble. And so like, I cleaned them off before I went. And they joke about that now. The fact that I went first to clean off the blood to then show them and tell them about it before they like freaked out about it. But you know, we're a family of mostly boys anyway. So they're used to it. They're used to like broken bones and just, you know, bloody scabs and everything. We take Austin back up to the house, and we, you know, really bandaged him up because I just kind of like cleaned it off and threw a couple band-aids on there, but we really cleaned it. And he's like screaming at this point because, you know, everybody's around and, you know, we're actually cleaning his wound. And yeah, so all that to say, my cousin now has about a 2-inch raised scar on his right knee, or like shin knee area, and it's from me. And so to this day, he knows that his cousin Kimberly gave him that scar. I don't know if he fully knows the story because he doesn't remember it, but every time I see him, I'm like, hey, how's that scar doing? And he's like, still there. Moral of the story is go play outside, and scars make stories. So go play outside and get some scars. I don't know. Moral of the story is, you know, don't push your cousin in a wheelchair on gravel. Or at least strap him in first. I don't know. There's a couple different morals of the stories you could be learning here. If you have a moral from this story, let us know in the comments below. But that's all I have for you. If you have a story, go ahead and let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear your story and share it here maybe. Who knows? But we'll see you guys next time. Bye.